All right, folks, we are back here at WLTH 1370M. That's 92.7 in the AM dial. The mothership. It is 6:39 in the PM on Friday, June the 7th, 2024. The future is here. The future is now. And it looks like the future might not be so good for a lot of young people in our country. Young people are actually absolutely miserable in this country, according to studies. Young people are so miserable in America currently that solely because of them, the United States has dropped out of the 20th happiest countries in the world. For the first time ever, America has been one of the 20th happiest countries on the planet forever, since they've been taking these surveys. We have plunged 8 places and are ranking below Mexico and Guatemala among under 30s. Among people under 30, the United States was ranked 62nd for happiness, right below Mexico. That's what I'm saying, folks. The U.S. is now unhappier than it has ever been. So we have fallen overall from 15th place to 23rd place, which is our lowest rating ever. It is the lowest ranking, which covers over 140 countries since the rankings have started. Among under 30s, we were ranked 62nd in happiness, below post-Soviet countries like Serbia, Latvia, and even Mexico and Guatemala. Now that means that overall, America's 330 million people are considered less happy than people living in post-Soviet nations like the Czech Republic and even Israel, in spite of the fact that Israel is currently waging a war in Gaza, well, a genocide in Gaza, really. We are also considered to be more unhappy than people in like-minded European nations, including the UK and Belgium. And of course, Finland was ranked the happiest nation on earth for the 7th year in a row. Now, you might want to just go through a lot of the videos on my YouTube page, Scott Cannon WLTH, and you will see why Finland and those countries are a lot happier than us. I talk about it quite often on this show. What's wrong with the United States, including things like trickle-down economics, which we talked about last week. Again, go to the YouTube page, Scott Cannon WLTH on YouTube, and you can see the segment about that. Previous studies have shown that this generation is much more lonely than its peers, with this linked to a multitude of health problems, including higher rates of depression and anxiety. Wow. So young people in their 20s, especially under 30, are really dealing with a lot of mental health, a lot of mental anxieties that past generations did not have. Across the world, these studies are finding that people born before 1965 were much happier than globally, just around the world, than people born since 1980. Oh, right. Millennials' happiness was observed to drop each year. I'm actually happier than I've ever been, okay? In contrast, boomers' life satisfaction has increased with age. Really? You guys are happier than you've ever been? Doesn't sound like it, but hey, might be wrong. The U.S. ranks 62nd in terms of happiness among young people, and among the old, defined as people over 60, it came in 10th. So you guys over 60 are doing pretty okay, at least not as bad as your children and grandchildren are doing. It scored 42nd for younger middle-aged people and 17th for older middle-aged people. So essentially, the older you are in America, the happier you are. Isn't that something? Maybe that's something to do with what we talked about last week with these people over 55 getting it on at the senior centers. You just got to remember to put a cap on it. That's all. You gotta remember to wear the glove. No glove, no love. But it seems like you guys are doing just fine. In comparison, Great Britain scored 32nd for youth, 27th for younger people, middle-aged people, and 19th for older middle-aged people. Lithuania, which was overall the 19th happiest country on earth, has the happiest young people in the global rankings, while Denmark's second overall, old people were the happiest on earth. Again, why are people in Denmark so happy? Social safety net. They have a social safety net. They know they're not going to be out in the streets if they lose their income. Unlike here in the United States of America, where we regularly throw old people out. And it looks like Social Security is running out faster by the day. Experts are saying that this data is showing that a worrying trend that younger people in Western Europe and North America are experiencing the equivalent of a midlife crisis. Now, we've talked about this very much in recent times on this show. Social media, computers, laptops, screens. I actually did a segment a few months ago, Scott Cannon WLTH on YouTube, about the effects of screens on young people. Anxiety, depression, and all these things are what happen when you let these kids sit in front of these screens for hours and hours and hours. Thank God they did not exist when I was a kid. Well, they weren't really around. There were no smartphones when I was a kid. There were computers, but like I said earlier, you had to be rich to have one, or at least have some decent money, and there was no real internet for most people when I was a kid. But these young kids today, these young people today are awash in bad news constantly. They're constantly hearing bad news. They're constantly seeing black people being choked out by the police, racial wars being fought on Twitter. Like I said, even the WNBA has turned into the culture war, racial Olympics, you know, the victim Olympics now. You can't do anything now without getting canceled, without having some anxiety of people all ganging up on you for having the wrong opinion. So I understand why a lot of young people, even beyond the economic and political strife that we're seeing in this country, are just not really finding life to be all it's cracked up to be. Now, like I said, Finland was the happiest nation on earth for the 7th year in a row. Nordic nations like Denmark, Iceland, Sweden collected the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th places. Only 2 of the top 10 happiest nations, Israel and Australia, were not in Europe. And those are basically European settler colonial states. Israel and Australia are both European settler colonial states full of white people who stole some other indigenous people's land. Okay? So pretty much all of the 10 happiest nations are Western European countries. And the United States is basically a Western European country that has been hijacked by the corporate capitalist fascist state, basically. We have a bunch of rich billionaires who own and control our media and our economy and our politicians. So all the countries that are like our country, that actually have things like a adequate social safety net, universal health care. Oftentimes, I think Finland and Denmark have universal college education for their young people. These countries are where you see young people who are actually able to live their lives in a way that is fulfilling for them. Whereas America, where we force young people into $200,000 in debt if they want to go to a good school, and we tell them if you want a good job, you got to go deep into debt to go to college, And then when they go to college, we stick them with these debts and we say, well, nobody forced you to go to college. And then you wonder why these people are miserable. Other countries overtaking America's 6.7 out of 10 in happiness score included Canada, which was ranked 15. I can understand why Canada's happier than us. Germany was ranked, wow, below us. Wow. Germany was ranked one place below at 24th. I wonder what's going on there. And Mexico was ranked 2 places below. I mean, man, if you're more unhappy than Mexico, that's got to be that can't be good. Autocracies continue to rank far worst, with China ranked at 60th place with a happiness score of just 5.9, and Russia fell to 72nd. What are the unhappiest countries in the world? Afghanistan and Lebanon. I can see why. Like, those are countries that are bombed regularly. And the third unhappiest was the African landlocked nation of Lesotho with 3.18. 46 of the 140 countries, or 32%, had a larger population of their overall population ranked as unhappy rather than happy. Wow, that is unfortunate. But yeah, I think stories like this are important because they show you that young people in this country are currently really struggling to deal with that transition from childhood to adulthood. It is a crisis. It really is. Now, this young woman named Sarah Pequeño from USA Today wrote about why she feels young people today are so unhappy. And she says one of the major sources of unhappiness for people her age was the aftermath of COVID-19, which I covered here. American students lost years of progress in the lockdowns that we now see were ill-advised. Countries like Sweden never locked down. They never locked down their schools. They never canceled their schools. No kid died in Sweden of COVID-19. And they never closed their schools. Now, the consequences of that, in terms of learning, but it's in terms of their socialization skills as well, has been tragic. She also talks about how some of these young people finished high school or college during COVID-19, and others are just starting their careers. Imagine starting your career or starting your college years or getting into the workplace right as COVID-19 is hitting. That's awful. Obviously, there are economic ramifications. A USA Today analysis of Medicaid data revealed that there was a 17% increase in Zoloft prescriptions from 2019 to 2022, a 12% increase in mental health drug prescriptions overall. Wow. You could go to the YouTube page, Scott Cannon WLTH, and you can see all about how what we found about these psychotropic drugs that they have people on, that they've pumped Americans, and how they actually don't work. But that's neither here nor there. Groceries have gotten more expensive. Inflation, student loan repayments have restarted. The cost of renting has increased 15% just between 2020 and 2022. There's been a 44% increase in the country's median home price since January of 2020. Over the last 4 years, there's been a 44% increase in the median home price. Wow. So these kids can't afford groceries, student loans, renting, to rent someplace to live. There's a 44% increase in the median home price. So that means they can't afford to buy a house either. Is it coming into focus for you now? Why so many of these young people unhappy? Also, there's political polarization, a loss of a feeling that they are losing their rights, things like Roe v. Wade being overturned. And as we talked about earlier, social media. If you're on social media, and I have to remind myself not to do this too because I'm on Twitter a lot. I like to doom scroll myself a lot of times. You have to give yourself a break from that because you will see nothing but bad news over and over again on social media. And if it's not just bad news over and over again, it's people bragging about what they have, showing off with their wealth, flaunting their cars, flaunting what expensive vacations they go on. That can be taxing mentally. So what makes a difference? What can we do? We've got the issue. What is the answer? Now, two factors were heavily correlated with the happiness of young people. How much time they got for weekend sleep and relaxation, and more important was a sense of purpose. We have to give these young people a sense of purpose in their lives. Happiness was most predicted by a feeling of waking up each day and feeling like work or school is interesting and important. So that is important. It also means pursuing things that connect with one's sense of self. Even if you're not in a place where you can directly pursue your purpose in life, practice your skills or practicing skills or gaining education towards it can make you feel like you have a purpose. You have to make your health a priority. Better sleep means better health. That's mental and physical health. Insufficient or poor sleep quality can lead to lower mood and more irritability. So that's a lot of what you can do. That's what a lot of young people can do. Get more sleep and find a purpose that will give you a reason to wake up in the morning. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. What's up?
You always have interesting shows.
Well, thank you.
For that. And I got you classified as one of those extraordinarily educated young men.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, my question becomes, I've been doing a little bit of studying of late. What can we do about our situations that we have in all areas as far as our children go, the next generation? What could we do to make that be different a few years from now?
Mm.
And I'm stuck on Sunday church school. I'm stuck on that. What's your thought about that? If we could think
well,
about
I mean, this is the least religious generation in history. And we're seeing that. That was actually something I was going to talk about next. We are in very secular times where many young people do. Well, you're seeing it all over the Western world, but we're rapidly in the West secularizing and becoming a lot less religious. And so a lot of young people see church and they start breaking out in the other direction.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, I'll listen to you. You say you had something coming up on the next show or whatever. But I'm just believing that that's based on what my upbringing was. I've been blessed to be around here 84 years, and I've seen a few things change. But and this situation you're talking about now is a serious one, and I think it's in our hands, to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your call, brother.
All right, now.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm actually glad he brought that up because in the next few weeks, I definitely want to get into this topic about the secularization of our society and the sheer volume, the rise of people who don't believe in God anymore. The rise of people who who say that they have no religion, and what effect that has on our society. So I'm going to look forward to doing that story in the upcoming weeks. Hopefully, wasn't going to get into it yet because I want to get into this. We're going to get into the happies. So we're going to change the mood of the show a little bit, get into some happies, and we'll be right back after these here on Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon, here on WLTH 1370 AM. That's 92.7 in FM dial. We'll be right back after these.